carrotfootball.com.au, part 2 of our local law chat with Peter Kelly. Well, we can tell you how important Peter Kelly is to local football at the end, because it's been a big year award-wise for him, but we'll talk about those a little bit later. We've talked about Peter's days involved with, of course, local football at club level, but around that mid-90s period, he made the move into league management. 93, he joined the GFL Board of Management, and a couple of years later, there were some very big shoes to fill.
Yeah, the one and only Mr. Don Matheson, OAM.
Should be Sir Donald Matheson, shouldn't it?
Oh, I'm not sure he's a Labor man.
Oh,
so
the Queen wouldn't knight him?
No, I don't think he wanted. If he was a Liberal voter, he might, but he's a true blue Labor man. Yeah, look, I'd spoken to him around about 92 about my next, I suppose, opportunities in footy administration, and I'd spoken to Lara. And he was happy for me to be included or to be looked at for a position on the GFL Board of Management. I have been heavily involved in Interleague through the 90s with Conrad Vinken, and we did the Interleague campaigns as a separate body to the GFL. So Donnie had a lot more of an understanding of me than just Lara president. So when I spoke to him about that, he said, yeah, okay. So he created a position for me on the Board of Management because they were portfolios. And it was Minister for Special Assignments or something like that. There was a bit of pushback from clubs because they started to wonder why, what's going on here. But there was always a succession plan there. The key was when, and he was so shrewd in working the numbers that I did put pressure on him from 94 to, I'm not going to hang around forever sort of thing. And he came back to me after, at the end of one season, and he'd done a little survey of clubs. I wasn't there. And he put a question to the clubs, and Marion Sponner told me this. And he said, Donnie came up to me the other day and asked me a question. He said, do you think Peter Kelly's ready to take over yet? And Sponner said, well, what do you think? Do you want to stay on? And Donnie says, well, I'm prepared to. Instead of saying, asking the question, I think I'm going to step aside. Do you reckon Kelly would be a good replacement? And it was just the way he worded the question that there was only one answer. No, not yet. If you don't want to go, Kelly's not going to get the gig.
Job, yep.
So it was a very shrewd way that he asked the question. And when I spoke to him about it, he just chuckled and laughed. Yeah, got you done again, Yeah. That's why.
He's been getting you all the time.
Yeah. Even now, mate, 96, he pulls left fielders on you, and you start to think, well, that's not bad.
It's a phenomenal, though, to think that Donnie was still head of what was then the number one, and still is the number one country football league in Victoria, as chairman, and he was in his late 70s.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest things that he did. Look, he always has a good team around him, even when he was at St Mary's. He always gets, not yes people, not yes men.
Just good people.
But good people and good footy people. Because in those days it was about footy competitions. Yeah. It wasn't a business. A league executive ran the clubs. And he always said to me, footy's governed by the rules. So just answer the question by the rule book. Now it's not, of course. But anyway, so he always had that. But the biggest thing that flicked everybody's eyes was the appointment of David Matthews. He knew that Peter Murphy, as secretary who worked for Elders, it just got beyond those capabilities of people, volunteers being secretary and full-time employee of another organisation. So he knew that we had to have a full-time employee. David was just finished business degree at uni, was right for the picking. Donnie had sounded him out. There's another story about something else that happened, but I won't go into that. It's quite funny. But David got appointed to the job. At his interview, Donnie said, your salary is $23,000. If the league runs out of money, take time off unpaid. He had a good friend, Tim Farley, who was Geelong Toyota.
Geelong City Toyota, yeah.
Geelong City Toyota. They used to meet each other at St Mary's 6 o'clock mass or 9 o'clock mass every Sunday morning. And Donnie put it on him for a car, and I think Tim went to the used car plot and found an old Datsun 120Y that David put out. 4-cylinder that ran on 2, I think, so it was only half the petrol price. So David got the job, but that was the hugest decision, first in the state, and it meant, the professionalism of the GFL was on its way.
You obviously had some big decisions to make in your time as chairman of the GFL, but obviously the creation of Football Geelong and then obviously the introduction of netball.
Yeah, well, netball was always bouncing around. Donnie wanted to start having a serious look at it, but there's a few footy presidents, me included, Jock, Merv Brogdon, that just didn't see the reason. So that got kiboshed, but certainly late 90s when Phil Clossy was there, that was starting to grow momentum, and the old bulls like me had to realise that things were going to happen. And then at the end of 98, there were a number of Ballerine clubs starting to talk to me, Phil, about possibility of affiliating with the Geelong Footy League. And we got 3 applications in writing and 1 verbal. So at that stage we said we better put out expressions of interest across the region for clubs that are interested, formalise it. You had to do it by the VCFL rules. So we did, and that's when we got the 3 in writing and 1 verbal. And we went to Terry Merivale, who was president of the Ballerine then, and said, I think there's going to be a bit of a drama coming up that in the best interests of footy we need to sit down and have a chat. And the outcome was the birth of Football Geelong in those days.
Yeah.
It was a prime opportunity for the Geelong Football League to start netball in the year 2000. The birth of Footy Geelong took probably 18 months, and it was all 99. Putting it in place, Jeff Donnelly was president of Ballerine. Terry had moved into the regional manager of West Coast District under the VCFL, and he facilitated the discussions. There was a couple of stipulations in it that Phil would be the CEO, Kevin Lynch, who was administrator, Ballerine would take over operations manager, and so on. So it all came together very well, but we couldn't split the leagues. One of the deals was that both leagues would retain their identity, and in theory there would be no status on either league. Both leagues would be treated exactly the same in administrative energies, governance energies, funds, and so on. So it was a damn good setup. The original commission, we called it, because we're moving away from board of management, executive admin. We used the AFL commission model with paid employees and independent commissioners doing the governance. There was a given that I would be chairman, and 3 reps from Geelong and 3 reps from Ballerine would make up the 7 commission members, and that all worked well. And then over a period of time it changed. So it grew from total infancy, a white piece of paper as I call it, to the best footy admin and governance model in the state by a long, long way. The downside of it was that it couldn't be recognised as such because it was administering 2 major leagues. Just so happened one of them was GFL and it was the strongest comp in the state, etc. But by the mid-2000s, late 2000s, 2010, its head had hit the ceiling. It had no more money to expand, facilities at Highton, and then along came Jones, and his name was Peter Jackson, and David Matthews initiated the review of Country Victoria. And that was probably what I was looking for. I'd actually done the inaugural chairmanship of Footy Geelong from 2000 to 2002. I'd had a promotion at work, which meant I was offshore a fair bit, so I had a break for 2 years and then came back, and Peter Cullen was chairman of Footy Geelong, and I said I'd like to get back involved in admin. you know, the comments where he's going to ambush Cullen and take over the role. And I said, no, my days of kissing babies and shaking hands, well gone. I'm happy to be a backbencher and contribute any way I can. And that's the way it's been ever since. And I stayed right through, you know, still on till the end. The Peter Jackson review was just incredible, but absolutely perfect timing for Footy Geelong. And they embraced it from the start.
Now, Cal might be a bit cheeky of me knowing that you roll with AFL Victoria and the working parties, but are we going to see promotion and relegation in the coming years?
You've asked a very loaded question, and people are going to be hanging on this answer. The political answer is that the review will have a look at all aspects. AFL Vic have instructed us and all regions across the state. Peter Jackson and Jimmy Carr, when they did a lap of the state, found that the imbalance of competitions is not unique to, say, the Ovens and King or the Warrnambool and District. It is right around the state. Clubs are cellar dwellers traditionally. So each region's been given the responsibility of looking at what they call equalisation and competitiveness of competitions. So we're doing a review of that with a decision to be made back end of 2015 with the probable introduction in 2016. Part of it will be promotion and relegation as part of the review. Obviously, those promotion and relegation does work. Amateurs have had it. English Premier League soccer, I know Buck Rogers is on the committee with me and doesn't want anything to do with a Premier League competition and things like that. But it does work. I mentioned earlier on the Geelong and District in the mid-80s had 2-division structure with promotion relegation. It did work. Anarchy won premiers in Div 2, North Geelong premiers in Div 2 and won premierships in Div 1. The promotion relegation between District League and GFL didn't succeed because of the gap and the preparedness of clubs to make the change, whereas Lara in their transition were prepared and had all the systems in place to manage it better. So Peter Kelly's thoughts are something has to happen. Each region across the state still has to retain a Premier League. What it's called, who knows? That's not really part of the decision. We're talking conceptually.
Yep.
That each region would still retain a Premier League. Now, any divisions underneath a Premier League, as to whether there's movement between them and the Premier League, or a Premier League be given clubs in the Premier League be given a 3-year licence, and movement between other divisions with application into the Premier League, is probably the considerations that need to be looked at. So to answer your question, I personally support promotion and relegation in some form.
Yep.
The two options are whether you would look at promotion and relegation between the whole structure, or your Premier League would have the opportunity to not have a bad year and be relegated into the next division, and a side who buys a premiership in second division be automatically promoted and not succeed.
Yep.
So they're the two things that the committee will look at and come up with a decision. But I'm one person on a 7-member board.
Some intriguing times coming up. Some word association before we let you go.
Ooh,
Don Matheson.
Gentleman and great teacher.
David Matthews.
Very, very good administrator. Got involved in sports administration at precisely the right time. Not to say that every promotion he received, he deserved.
Neville Whitley.
Neville has done an outstanding job for the Geelong and District Football League. I do wish that now he would be more positive in entertaining the embracing of the new structure in the region.
Phil Clossy.
Phil was very good for the Geelong Football League. He's a great business thinker, and football and netball Geelong. He used a lot of initiatives. be rarely a week or a month go by where a new initiative wasn't put on the table for review. When Phil left Footy Netball Geelong, he went to Peel Thunder as their general manager. At the time was right. Probably the club wasn't the right choice. And he's done a bit of a hop around over in the west with, he was the Mandurah offshore boating club general manager, and now back here at the Royal Geelong. Very, very good business operator.
Lee Hartman.
Lee has got a great mix of football and business skills. Lee is a very good learner. He's a very good listener. Initially, he came from the Northern Footy League, and I suppose not coming from the region, didn't understand a lot, and he was not struggling to find his way, but having to deal with people like me and a few others around, probably more me, he took him a little while to settle in, but once he grasped who were the people to listen to and talk to, and knew that they'd benefit his career, he's just gone ahead and leaps and bounds.
Going to leave you with one last one. Lara Football Club.
Lara Footy Club, at the moment, I'm talking, you specifically...
on your life.
Oh, look, I don't live out there anymore, but it was an absolutely fabulous window in my life. I had 20-odd years out there of just fun. I received entry into their Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned in my acknowledgement of the award that I was going to use the F word, and you could see people's eyes lift, and here he goes again. But the word I used was fun. We had just so many good times, and I mentioned earlier the momentum and the thrill of seeing the club grow from one telephone pole and a 100-watt light to the powerhouse of GFL footy and won premierships in netball was very, very gratifying.
And also this year, another award on top of that Lara Hall of Fame entry, an AFL Merit Award, only one awarded every year to somebody involved in football, and you were the recipient for 2013, and quite taken aback when it was presented to you earlier this year.
Yeah, look, that's a lot of people say you're not in it for the rewards. We're not. We're all footy people. Lee Hartman spoke to me probably early 2013, maybe even end of 12. What have you done in footy? So I rattled it off, and unbeknownst to me, he wrote it down. And I never heard any more until that night, other than him mention to me sometime last year. I haven't heard any more about that inquiry from AFL Vic, and what was that? And I said, well, they don't really like me. I'm not expecting too much. So when it was announced that the season's launched this year, I was very, very humble and pleased that your peers recognise your contribution to the sport, and to have Andrew Demetrio and Mike Fitzpatrick personally sign it. You cherish those sorts of things. So yeah, it's a pinnacle award that I really love.
Peter, it's been a fascinating chance to sit down with you and have a chat about your role in football and the more than half century that you've given to the game. And I'm sure when local footy history is being written in 50 to 100 years' time, the name Peter Kelly will be at the forefront. Thanks for joining us on Local Law.
Pleasure, Tom. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it.